And welcome to another edition of Mailbag. And like in the previous set of mailbags, I'm recording a single header for many answers that you guys have left on the channel, and there is a lot to go through this evening. So before we get going, remember these are mailbag questions and comments that you guys leave on the channel that are well worth actually sharing with the wider community. But before we start, we always go through parish notices, which are, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? Hit the subscribe icon. If you want to be notified about when videos hit the channel about things like this thing that's just off shop, which is the IDA 2400, that's the bell icon. If you like the contents of the video you're just about to watch, you know what, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the video on the YouTube algorithm. Also, leave comments down below. I do read them, I respond to them, and that's the reason why we're having this mailbag conversation now. And finally, for less than the price of a cup of coffee, consider supporting the channel by becoming a member of the TMTG community. The address is down below, as are the Instagram and Facebook tags where the normal channel notices are posted. But now back to this particular mailbag. Okay, the next one comes from Tortog. And this is in response to the Nautilus Kronos for Dummies video I did in January this year. And she writes, I see the Nautilus as Korg's MoDX. Both are basically the same internals but less control and more plastic. Unlike the MoDX cheap keybeds, the Nautilus has good keybeds. I agree with you, Korg probably has something coming in to be their new flagship workstation. Creating the Nautilus, they have a way of to keep their Kronos internals alive and continue to make money. I think the only mistake Korg has made was the price of the Nautilus isn't competitive with the MoDX. The Nautilus is just 30% less than a Kronos, whereas the MoDX is around half the price of a Montage. So fingers crossed, on the NAMM show in a couple of weeks' time, Korg will have a new flagship. Now, I didn't see an awful... NAMM, to be honest, for me, was a bit of a damp squid. I don't know about anybody else. I didn't really... There were lots of videos going on, but I didn't really get the sensation that there was an awful lot being released into market through NAMM. Maybe the summer NAMM might actually be a better place once people can start moving around. Anyway, the key beds are recycled on the Nautilus, as far as I understand, from the Kronos, and that's kind of been called out by a number of reviewers. So, you know, the Kronos has a good quality keyboard, and the R3 keyboard on the 88 is really good, which I understand is the same keyboard that is on the Nautilus, the R3. I think you and a number of others are of the same mind as me that the Nautilus is aimed at competition in the 1500 to 2200 price block, which does pit it squarely against the MoDX and the smaller Phantom as well, actually. And I agree that a slightly cheaper price point may persuade more to swap platforms, but we shall see. Anyway, this answer was written before NAMM, and I wrote then let's see what arrives at NAMM, and as I said, I thought it was a bit of a damn squid. Personal opinion. Okay, this next one comes from Sean Curran, and it's in response to how to convert the S50 sound library to work with an S50, a video I did in January 21. And Sean writes, "Hey John, great video. I thought I would chime in with the Roland W-30 info related to in your video. The library conversion utility is built directly into the W-30, similar to the S330 S550, but without the requirement for the utility disk. This allows you to read S50, S330, S550 library disks and convert them into W-30 format disks. Since none of the S-series samplers, not sure about the latter models, can read W-30 disks, they must be converted to They must be converted, sorry. Subsequently, the W30 comes with the utility to take any W30 disc and convert it to an S50 format natively in the sampler. However, I do not see a way to convert W30 discs to S330 and S550 format. Looks like samplers are converted from W30 to S50 and then on to the S330 and S50 converted to their own format. Yeah. Anyway, that's great. I didn't realise that. I mean, I had a friend who had a W30, and that's great info about the W30. The W30 was actually released after the S50 and S330. So the S50 was 1986, and the S50 was a dedicated sampler, while the SYS303 gave it some sequencing capability. It really was a sampler. Whereas the W of the W30 stood for workstation, it came out with a sequencer and utilities built into the OS and a larger sequencing memory. And I said a friend of mine had one for many, many years, and until he was burgled and it was stolen. But it was a very capable machine and basically created the Prodigy sound. I mean, pretty much that all of those early Prodigy records were created on a Roland W-30. The Roland sound libraries are a really good source of bass samples as well, and I think most of these bass samples, I think I've actually got most of them, to be honest now. As long as you can no longer get these on disc, I'm in the process of listing them in both S50 and S550 and S50 formats on eBay for other S-series sampler users to get hold of. I've mentioned them many times that I used to go to a place called Project Music, and they would sell you a copy of the sound library disc after you thumb through the library. I'm lucky all these years later that I've managed to acquire the originals. And this is very true. This is what used to happen. There was a place called Project Music. I used to go there all the time with friends of mine. It was a fantastic shop. I've mentioned it so many times on the channel. And unfortunately, it is no longer there. It went bust many, many years ago. Okay, next video from Don DeVore, and this one's in response to Behringer. You can make me can you make me a DMX? I'm moving house to buy more gear. Video I did in January 2021. And Don writes, the problem is not the clones they make, they are fine for the price range. It's how they treat the critics and competitors that gives Behringer a bad reputation. 25 years of ripping off other companies and then producing a lesser version of a thing they ripped off. Swing, for example, was not a collab with Arturia, but a reversed engineering repainted keylab. The Korg sniffer pedal, they might have some decent cheap gear, but a lot of people don't want to support a company that behaves in such a way. If they're aware of it, Behringer has had so many lawsuits over the years. They have a separate legal section on their wiki page. Check out Ben Jordan's video on the subject, and there's a reference to the particular video. Now, I've read through the comments, and it did make me think the whole point about living within a democracy is that we have the right of have the concept of free speech. But Ben's video was a very interesting point of view, and I will limit my comments to the video. I put it this way: I can't afford the original. Right, they're out my price bracket, and definitely really are out my price bracket, given the fact I'm broke. And as you say, the reimagined machine provides me with the functionality of the original unit at a cost point that does not bankrupt me. In terms of the example you quote, I think market forces will dictate whether the original or reversed engineering comes out on top. Some people will buy purely on price, others will look at features and functions of an instrument and buy based on need or requirement. If the differential between the two units is not significant, then people will buy on functions. This is how market economy works. To be honest, the way I look at it is look at any new equipment. While the price may be important, it's really about what it does for me. Sadly, I have not found a keyboard that makes me sound like Emerson, Rudess, Wakeman, Banks, etc. And I think nor will I ever. Cheers.